So we're here to talk about your book. Your new book, Hardwiring Excellence in Education, focuses on the 9 principles. What connects you to the 9 principles?
You know, Mandy, there's so many things that connect me, but it makes me go back to a story. Makes me go back to, around 2008, 2009, when I first attended Take You and Your Organization to the Next Level, called TYYO. Quint Studer put them on. And I was sitting in the room and listening to him and others talk about the 9 principles. And I just couldn't leave the room. I mean, I just couldn't, I was so attentive to the content of what they were talking about and just the connection that I had to the 9 principles. I just stayed there and listened intently. And so I learned so much about the 9 principles 15 years ago. And I was a leader at the time, and it changed me as a leader. And I kept going back to TYYOs. They would have like 3 or 4 a year, and I had to take every moment I could to go and sit and listen and learn and listen and learn. And I just began to build better leadership skills just by attending to those. And my leader, I changed personally, I changed as a leader. And I had been a leader for quite a while, but I felt like I had ways to go to improve, and the principles really helped me do that.
So I want to talk about the book title, Hardwiring Excellence. What does that mean?
Hardwiring Excellence. So as we think about hardwiring excellence, we want to make sure that when we are applying a leadership skill and that we're trying to achieve a result, that there are very specific things that we want to do. And I think always. I know we can't be perfect, but we're always doing things that are the right things to do, and we're hardwiring our behaviors in ways that are producing significant results. And when you think about hardwiring, you know, I go back to, at the beginning of the book in the introduction, I introduced the flywheel. And the flywheel, at the centerpiece of that flywheel is purpose, worthwhile work, and making a difference. And as I was writing the book, I tended to term those the educational core values. And I know in most service industries, they probably are our core values. When we're there to serve others, we're doing it because we want to have purpose, do worthwhile work, and make a great difference. But we just can't do that without hardwiring certain behaviors to get us there. And so that flywheel and the outer layers of that flywheel become extremely important in that process.
What in this book is meaningful to you?
Yeah, I'm going to take off a little bit. There are a couple of things. I mean, you know, the hardest part about writing a book to me is trying to figure out what to put in, what not to put in, and what's meaningful to me, and then what would be meaningful to others. That's the part that takes the most time. And you're just taking a piece. I'm old-fashioned. I take a piece of paper and I scribble and scribble and scribble and shift it around and try to build the pieces. But I'm going to go back to the flywheel, because in that introduction, the flywheel is at the center of the educational core values. But there are 3 components to that flywheel: inspiring workplaces, building strength in our people, and achieving results and accelerating results. And so that's conceptually what we're trying to do, and that's what the book is really all about, is how do we build inspiring workplaces so that we build strength in our people to accelerate our results. So at the end of the day, they have purpose, worthwhile work, and they're making a difference. And there are very specific tools and tactics within the 9 principles that help us do that. Again, change our behavior, change our leadership behavior so that we hardwire and consistently do those. What I really like about when I was writing the book, it forced me to really kind of lay out what's important in each of those chapters around the tactical pieces, but also layering the stories that we've learned in the field of people who are doing this work. And so that's probably my favorite part, is telling the stories of our partner organizations and leaders who have been, just like me, probably we've had experiences, but we are learning something new and we're getting better, and telling those stories of leaders who are just getting better and continuously building those workplace environments that inspire their people, build strength, and are achieving results. That's probably my favorite part of the book.
Who should read this book?
I'm finding myself, so I'm a little more than 3 decades into my professional life, and I've been a leader most of my life, my professional life, and I've always, we think of leaders in a leadership position, but as I've gotten older, I've not thought of it that way. I think of leadership as everyone in an organization is a leader. And when we build a culture where we empower everyone to gain leadership skills to be leaders, we usually have a better organization. So I think anyone in an organization who wants to be their best professional, wants to engage with their team members in the most productive way, and wants to basically feel successful, will get something out of the book. If you're in a leadership position, you're going to see it from a particular viewpoint. If you're on a team and you're leading a project, you'll see it from a particular viewpoint. If you're an employee coming to work, you'll see how you can contribute as a leader. So I think there's something in it for most anyone out there. It's focused on education, but there's a lot of transfer to other professions and other industry. So I would hope that most anyone could pick it up and say, hey, I can see myself there, or oh my gosh, I can see sometimes I can see myself there and I can see some of the things I'm doing right, and oh my gosh, I see myself there and I really need to change that behavior and get better.
So you mentioned it's a book about leadership. Why this book now?
I think we probably, over time, we say leadership is more important than ever. I'm going to say it again. Leadership right now is more important than ever. And there's so many changes that are going on, and change is continuous. Sometimes it's not static. We're always going to be leading through changes that are occurring. And leaders have to be able to do that. And they can't do that well unless they're able to create engaged conversations with people they work with, listen intently to what's going on, and using evidence to help form decision making as they move forward. And be able to know when things are working and when to make those adjustments, and making that part of the culture and part of what we do. And that part of leadership is essential in what we're doing day in and day out. The other part, one of my favorites, and for those of people who know me and have seen presentations, I always tend to put the elephant and the rider up on the slides. People probably like, please stop doing that. But I do that because I think it's really significant in leadership right now. And it's a picture of an elephant and a rider, the rider trying to guide the elephant down a path. And the elephant and the rider have to be on the same page in order to go down that path. And when they get off, when the rider's trying to move the elephant and the elephant doesn't want to go that way, then there's going to be difficulty in traveling down a particular path. And so it's important then for us to really, the elephant represents the emotion of the organization and the rider represents the rational part. We spend so much time on the rational part of the organization and not enough time on the emotional part. So when you read the book, there's a lot about the emotional part. There's some rational pieces in there, but what I think this book does is really help leaders focus a lot on the elephant. So that's that part of the book I think really gives leaders tools and tactics to focus there. And the last part I'll say in terms of leadership, that when that rider is guiding that elephant, I go back to my coaching days, here's what I've learned over the years that differentiates good leaders, great leaders, from those that are just okay. And as a leader, it's knowing when to really push people and create that tension and enough tension and urgency in the organization to push them. And as you're pushing, when to pull back. And it's that push and pull and push and pull. And there's no science to that. You know, it's part of the art of leadership. But the tools and tactics that you carry with you that are in the book help you advance yourself in the art, because you have to do some of the science part, the tactical things, in order to really grow the art of leadership. And that, to me, is why leadership is so important. We have to be able to move our organizations forward to achieve results. And we have to be able to do that and value and care about the people we work with each and every day.
So tell us about your next steps with the book.
So we're going to do some learning around the book. We're going to do some online book clubs. We're going to invite people in to have conversation about the book. And we'll do study guides that connect to the book so that we can provide additional resources. The other thing I think it's helped me do, Mandy, is I know now, like, there are other things that we need that would be helpful. So for example, as I'm going back and kind of rereading the book myself, you know, there's a framework, there are the 9 principles and the framework that's attached to that. And there are leadership competencies that are embedded, but we've not really defined what those competencies are at this point. And so I think that's my next step personally, is really to go in and say, here are the leadership competencies that basically build a way for us to create actionable ways of moving that leadership framework forward. And then beginning to build out ways to learn together, to engage in conversation around those competencies so that we know what skills we're needing to apply in order to get better. But there are all types of things. The book is, there's the book, the great thing about the 9 principles are they're timeless in nature. They were probably important 3 decades ago. They'll be important 3 decades from now, because they're timeless. They're just things we as leaders and people in organizations need to do in order to create great organizations. And so our ability to really network with others to gain insight on ways that we can continue to advance that, you know, is really limitless. So I'm looking forward to just conversations that I'll be able to have with leaders and learn from them, and hopefully they'll learn a little bit from us.